Reclaim is a podcast for women, by women, on conversations that matter, with your host, Thais Sky. Together, we will explore the questions of what does it look like to reclaim our sovereignty, our worthiness, our voices as women in this messy world. No topics are barred as we offer roundtable discussions on life, spirituality, politics, and what it means to be a woman in the modern age. Let's do this. All right. Hello, everybody. Thais Sky here. Welcome to this week's episode of Reclaim. I am in another person's closet once more.
Special episode.
Special.
It's always so special when I'm here.
I was just going to say, what makes it special?
Because we're in my closet together.
Yes.
Human to human. Human contact, like actual in the physicality these days, are very special.
It is very special.
We could be on Skype. But we're not.
Actually, why aren't we on Skype?
Because we're in my closet.
Well, I just never considered that I could just Skype you.
No,
and
never.
Record the conversation.
Absolutely not. I would never let that happen. Don't you worry, podcast audience. I will never let that happen. The dynamic would change.
It would.
I wouldn't be able to sit in front of you and sip my...
What is that? Brown liquid. Because it certainly doesn't look like coffee.
Well.
Is it coffee?
It is not coffee.
Is it dandelion?
You know I don't drink coffee. It is actually 4-sigmatic lion's mane mushroom adaptogen, because I'm in rare form. I might not even be able to make sense with my 4-sigmatic mushroom elixir. I know. I'm in real rare form, though. I was up at 3 a.m. with my little dog who's sick, and I kind of couldn't go back to sleep, so I just stayed up.
Well, I am excited for 10 a.m. Lindsey form that I'm going to get today on this podcast.
I've been up for hours.
You've been up all day.
Literally. It's like...
7 hours.
It's literally like afternoon to me right now. Like
literally.
It's dinner time, actually. So there you have it, folks.
There we have it. Well, I want to talk about some topics that are very near and dear to my heart.
Okay.
Manifestation.
Oh.
Law of attraction.
Oh.
We create our reality. What else? How about we manifest our destiny? You have a soul contract with people who come into your life. So if they abuse you, then somehow it's your responsibility. Or if you don't take ownership of that, then you're victimizing yourself.
Okay.
I want to talk about that. Calling abuse, or calling it a violation, calling it whatever it's calling it, is giving your power away. These are all statements that I have been seeing and reading across the internet since the hashtag #MeToo campaign started to be a thing. Also, by the way, with the #MeToo campaign, I don't know if you know this, but a Black woman of color originally started this campaign 10 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. So
see, this is why
it's been kind of co-opted in white spaces, but it was really originally a woman of color.
This is why it's so important to, I think, dig back into the history. Basically, what you want to talk about today is how very hurtful and dangerous surface level spirituality stuff can be.
Yeah.
Do I have that right?
Sure.
In like a simplistic
That sounds really good.
form.
Sure.
Okay.
I think one of the... Okay, so let's talk about manifestation real quick. Let's talk about what manifestation even means.
I feel like we talk about this all the time.
I know, but I don't think we talked about it with a mic on.
Yeah, maybe not.
Okay, so manifestation is this idea that your thoughts create your reality. And that if you align with the vibrational match of whatever it is that you want, you will attract that into your life. Because like attracts like.
Right.
And so if you think positive thoughts and you envision whatever it is that you want, let's say you want red bottom shoes, you envision
walking down the street.
You envision yourself carrying a very expensive handbag, right? Like you imagine yourself being this person that has this type of money that you can spend
getting
it on
into that car, opening the door to that house.
Yes. Yeah, so let's say that that's what you want.
Okay.
That seems to be what a lot of women want that, I guess.
Yeah, I think a lot of humans in general want things, right?
Yeah.
I think it's part of the human experience
Exactly.
to like desire and want.
Yeah, and I think what's brave about manifestation is that traditional religions like Christianity and even some Buddhism line of thinking and Hindu line of thinking is that desires are inherently bad. Because desires create
the
suffering.
Attachment,
Exactly.
right?
The attachment of physical things creates suffering. And so I think manifestation is a bold claim that's saying, actually, you're allowed to desire. You're allowed to want these things. And I think there's a middle ground here where I actually believe that our desires and our longing for a better life is actually God calling us inward, or the universe, whatever you want to call it. So I think that there's, neither school of thought, to me anyway, excites me because I can't stop wanting things. I'm human and I want things. So instead of making an enemy out of my desires, what if I were to acknowledge that first off, buying that house or having that thing is not the answer? Because I that happens all the time. I'm like, oh, I really want that. And then I get that and I'm like, oh, my problems are still with me.
Well, of course, because what you have failed to do in that moment is look underneath the hood of that thing.
Yeah.
And to pause long enough to connect with yourself to see, is that thing what I really want?
Exactly.
Or is it the feeling that I think that thing will give me that I really want?
Exactly. So desires are not a problem. I don't want to see any part of the human psychology as problematic. I think we can all have desires. I think desires are powerful and potent. And I think they drive certain behaviors and certain actions that lead us into, if we allow it, a deeper fulfillment within us. Like our longings, our desire for a greater connection with other people can help us heal our trauma and our separation. I mean, I think that there's so much to be said about the potency of desires. And I think that's what manifestation has brought to the conversation.
Right. The potency of deep desires.
Yes.
Like actual desires.
Yes.
Not the surface desires, which we see a lot of right now and have been in our industry, which is kind of like the spirituality, self-help, personal development, kind of like personal growth industry. We see it all the time, right? I mean, we actually are friendly with people that they've built really successful businesses.
Yes.
Helping people do that surface level work.
Yeah. And I think it can be, for me, it was in many ways a gateway drug. Just like
for sure,
the physical practice of yoga, to me, was a gateway drug to something deeper.
And those gateways have importance. They have relevance.
Yeah. And so for me, understanding that my thoughts have consequences, that my behavior has consequences, I think was really powerful for me, because when we are unconscious and we're kind of moving through our lives unconsciously, it's very easy to be constantly blaming everything outside of us for our problems.
Yeah. I think another thing that the gateway allows the opportunity for, if one is courageous enough to actually go there and go deep, is the opportunity for you to really tap in to your collective responsibility.
Ooh.
And how you have the opportunity to take ownership of that. And that's super overwhelming.
Yeah.
It can feel incredibly overwhelming because it's big, right? The magnitude, the capacity of it is like huge.
Yeah.
To think that, holy shit, what I say and what I do, and sometimes even maybe what I think, has effects not only on me, but other humans.
Yes. Like we're all in a web, and how you behave affects that web.
So no wonder we're terrified of quote unquote negative feelings, emotions, thoughts, energy, all these things, when in reality, quote unquote negative, low vibe, whatever you want to call it, is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing that actually has relevance
and importance.
And that needs to be honored in a certain capacity.
Yes.
In order for a balance. And when I say balance, I know you guys can't see me, but I'm teetering back and forth like a teeter-totter, because that is balance.
Yes.
Balance isn't this like hypothetical thing that just like stays stagnant, even and still. That's not what balance is. Balance is this beautiful fluid
fluctuation.
movement.
Yeah. Yes. So when Lindsey and I are talking about manifestation, I just want to be clear that there are so many powerful principles that I truly believe in when it comes to the conversation of manifestation. For example, I do believe in the laws of cause and effect. I believe that what you do affects others. What you think does affect your life. I do believe that there is karma. I do believe that there are things that we have control over and things that we don't. And I think the problem with manifestation, well, let me back up. I think the problem specifically with law of attraction that really frustrated me is this idea that law of attraction is a law, just like the law of gravity. That's what you're taught. And so if you're not attracting what it is that you want, it's not because the law is defective. It's because you're defective. And so what was happening to me was I was investing a lot of money, a lot of time in one method, in one way of doing my business, because I was taught that if you doubt that way, then you're stopping the flow. You know, if you doubt that what you're doing is working, then instead of allowing that doubt to get curious and to play with other things, you are taking away from the potency of what you're doing.
So that right there is one of my biggest problems with our industry. Just this year, back in March, I attended a Tony Robbins event.
Yes.
Unleash Your Power Within. I think that's the one that you walk on fire. I walked on fire.
You walked on fire. I remember how nervous you were about walking on fire.
I was like, you know what? If I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. And that doesn't mean nothing about me.
Yeah, I remember you were like.
And I was like, I'm in it.
I'm going to do it.
I'm owning my power.
You're doing it.
Whatever decision I want to make, I'm going to make. I'm going to honor myself. And I ended up like totally being in the trance. And like, I knew I was being like hypnotized and stuff. And I knew it. I totally, I heard like the specific chimes and snaps and, things that other people had probably no idea.
Fascinating.
Like I knew it. So anyways, I attended the event with a bunch of people that I knew. And one in particular being one of my best friends and business partners, Juliet. And we actually did a whole thing on my podcast about it, talking about it and digging into it. And this is one of the biggest things that we talked about. This idea that when we sell this surface level stuff and we sell it in these ways, these huge ways, right? You go to a Tony event, it's like, a small one is like 7,000-8,000 people.
Yeah, which is insane.
Totally crazy, right?
Insane.
First of all, how much money is that guy making? Like,
I know.
What?
Yeah.
Anyways, so when we do it like that, right? We see all these success stories, all these people, but all these people with these giant success stories kind of stay. They stay with him. They go to every event. They volunteer at those events. They become this like soldier almost,
Interesting.
And so great, right? Great for them. I'm all about, championing. Is that championing?
Yeah, championing.
Oh boy.
7-hour Lindsey here.
Yeah, here we go. Other people's happiness. And if that works for them, if that fits for them, great. However, I think that there's a very destructive thing that potentially happens that is very unspoken out of shame.
Yes.
Where there are people that go to this event and then they try and they try and they try and they do all their things.
That's
and
the majority of the people.
Yes.
Lindsey, the majority of the people that go to these events, it doesn't work for them.
Well, and that's the problem. What happens is like a couple weeks after or a couple months after, once that initial like
high
wears off, and maybe they're one of those people that literally spent their last dime on this absurdly priced ticket to go, which like literally breaks my heart.
Yeah.
And they run out of fuel. and they don't have the means to go get another hit.
Yep.
And go to the next event or sign up for the next course or whatever. And so what they do is they sit and they say, well, I guess we can talk about it in spiritual terms, right? Their ego, or their inner critic gets the best out of them and pops up and goes, see, I fucking told you so.
Yep.
You are broken.
Yep.
It worked for 7,999 other people, and it didn't work for you. What's wrong with you?
Exactly. It's like self-help works if people are broken.
Yeah.
So we have to keep letting people feel broken.
Which is heartbreaking.
And so if I make you feel...
Just that statement alone.
Yeah.
This
is our industry.
Heartbreaking to hear you say that. I mean, something's wrong.
Yeah. Because if I make you feel broken and that you don't have all the tools that you need, then you'll buy my thing.
Over and over and over again.
So the law of attraction is not a law. It can be a principle. You can see it as a way of life. I mean, you can think about it in all sorts of... It's not a fucking law, okay? It's not a law because there's multiple other variables that impacts a person's ability to quote unquote attract something into their lives. I just wrote about this the other day. You know, people say if you're not attracting your partner, it's probably because you're not loving yourself. And I'm like, I actually attracted my partner when I was in a very low state. I didn't love myself at all, and yet I attracted him into my life. Why? Why is that? Because there's no conditions to your lovability. And yet we're being told, like, if you're not attracting this, then you're the problem, and you need to fix it with your thoughts. And so you have to focus on the positive thoughts. You cannot doubt, because doubt will stop the manifestation. You cannot question, because questioning will stop the manifestation. You have to have full faith. And I think that full faith is dangerous. Because even in the Buddhist principles, you know, Buddha says, question everything I teach you. Take it into the world. See if it really works for you.
And this is exactly what's happening in the community of spirituality. When we get too far to the extreme, what spirituality does is it takes the human component out of it.
Yes.
You know, it makes me think of, you know, listen, I was a student of A Course in Miracles. I did the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
For one full, listen, I wasn't super consistent, but so it took me like a year and a half. Yeah, okay. I'd be like day 22, and then like 5 days later, I'd be like day 23. But no, there were pockets of time where I was super diligent about it, especially towards the end. And there's this whole part in it where it talks about like, you are not a body.
Yeah.
Like, and it basically like, it's this principle or concept of almost like dismissing your body. Like, you don't need it.
Yeah.
And while I think there's a facet of that that's true, because yeah, sure, you don't need your body if you're just going to be this spiritual being.
Yeah.
But you're human. If I can see you,
yeah.
I got news for you.
Yeah.
You're human just like the rest of us. And when it becomes dangerous and destructive is when we remove the human component.
I agree. It has to have both.
Oh my God, sorry.
Go.
I don't like interrupting you.
No,
like
but
that.
do it.
But that's what gives us I think that opens up the opportunity and gives us kind of like this unspoken permission to de-fucking humanize.
Oh.
Holy shit, I need more of this lion's mane for Sigmatic.
I don't even know how to fucking pronounce what the fuck is coming out of your mouth. What's ensigmatic? Like, what the fuck is that? Like, I can't even visualize that word in my mind to understand what it is that you're drinking.
For Sigmatic.
Okay.
Like,
that's
they're
not
like
English.
mushroom
That's not
elixirs.
English.
I don't know. It's like some crazy, like, healthy whatever. I don't know. I'm just trying to get my brain cognition back from my mold exposure and my mercury poisoning. I mean, I'm just trying everything.
Well, so here's the thing. I think also, you know, what manifestation, law of attraction, that whole realm of conversation does is it perpetuates this idea that you cannot call yourself a victim because you are not a victim. If you attract everything that comes into your life. So if you were robbed, if you were raped, if you were abused, even if you're 5 years old, if you have cancer, it means you attracted it into your life. And now you have to learn something from it, or else you're going to keep attracting it again and again. Yeah. And I think that that's way too simplistic. I think that there's a lot of forces at play. I think, people just do shitty things based on their own karmic shit, and it impacts you because what happens with other people happens to you. And I don't think it's victim mentality to say that something happened to you. I don't see how that's a victimhood. I can see victim mentality being, something happened to me and now I can't do anything and I'm just, I'm completely powerless and I have no chance of doing anything about anything ever again. Yeah, I can, but very rarely I see people are an actual victim mentality. In fact, what I see more of is, I'm a victim to this. This happened to me. I'm a victim. And now I am going to take this and I'm going to use this and I'm going to burn this, right? Like I'm going to allow this anger to help me get help. I'm going to use this experience to teach people about consent. I'm going to use this experience to propel me forward. Like that's what I see most of the time. And that even takes some time. Sometimes people need to be in their sadness and their depression and their stuff because life is hard and things happen to people and you're allowed to be there too. But I think when we say that you can't be a victim, we strip people of their very real humanity of experiencing their experience in whatever way that looks like for them.
Yeah, I also want to bring up a concept around this that I was just listening to, oh boy, I'm going to have to send it to you so you can put it in the show notes because I'm totally blanking on this woman's name. Her first name's Megan, for sure. She just recently wrote a book, something along the line, It's Okay to Not Be Okay, which obviously for me, I feel like has been a huge lesson for me this year. And so I was really hanging on to all her words in this particular podcast.
It's okay that you're not okay. Meeting grief and loss in a culture that doesn't, I don't know what the rest says, but the woman's name is Megan Devine.
Yes, thank God for Google. So listen, I think there's this beautiful concept that she spoke about where when we have a traumatic event or a painful event or an event that causes us so much pain that we need to mourn and grieve and whatever. There's so many things that we do as outsiders to try to take people out of that.
Yes.
Because of our own discomfort,
yes,
right?
Because of our own discomfort.
But something else that we do on the flip side is we say things like, oh, what a terrible tragedy that, her son died from,
died
cancer
too young.
Or
Only
whatever,
good to die young.
However, look at the amazing gift that has come out of it by her starting this beautiful non-for-profit that's doing so well.
Like seeking the gifts, the lessons.
We somehow take that pain and try to make it worth something.
Oh, yes, Lindsey.
Which is so, it's so destructive to our humanness, to our connection. So rather than, there's this need to, wrap our worth up in everything.
There is. And what I've seen to be true for me is that when I started awakening, so I had my first awakened moment, right? My dark night of soul where I was binge eating a lot and I was very lost and I had lost everything. And I prayed for the first time in my life. I heard a response, right? I developed this connection with God immediately in that moment. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do what I need to do to understand what that experience was and who I am in this world. And I went from feeling very alone and it's a dog-eat-dog world and no one cares about me to the life is working for you, not against you, and the universe loves you, right? I went from one to the other. And so as I started going into the yoga world and started to understand manifestation and whatever, what I liked about it was that it was a form of control.
Mm-hmm.
I could now control my life.
Right, yeah.
Because before, I felt very out of control, and that's why I binged. That's why I obsessed over how much money I was spending. I documented every penny. I was very, controlling of myself. And when we don't really address that inherent need to control, which I didn't at the time, I slowly started easing away from binge eating, but then I went into manifestation.
So you went from one extreme to the other, which is, I think, very, very common.
Yeah, I believed that the bravery that manifestation gave me to leap and move to California with no money in the bank, believing that I was going to be supported, that leap and the net will appear, was very risky and naive. And I've been paying the price of that very big, bold decision. And people are like, oh, you're so brave. I'm like, sort of.
Well, and a lot of people wouldn't talk about this side of it because then they would feel shame around being a failure.
Yeah.
Right?
No one talks about the fact that they made a huge launch and they made no money.
We never hear that.
No, we never hear that. And because then people are like, well, your thinking wasn't right, or you didn't believe in yourself enough, or, it's you're defective. And when we make it be about us, we can't then get curious as to actually what went wrong.
Yeah.
Because we're making it be about us.
And it's, because I've been in this situation too, where I've been in conversations in a group of people and heard something along the lines of, someone actually sharing vulnerably and really just wanting to be seen and heard and being like, I'm working so hard and I don't know what it is, but I'm not making money.
Yeah.
And another person literally leaving and being like, oh, I couldn't be around that
negative
talk,
oh my
that
God,
negative
Lindsey.
talk because I don't believe that.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, okay, so basically you are taking someone else's truth away from them because you're too uncomfortable with it.
Again, Linz, because we desire control. And so if you can control how much quote unquote negativity, if you can control how much uncomfortable emotions you allow in, simultaneously pushing down your own uncomfortable emotions and your own negative thinking, then you get to narrow your existence so much so that you live this tiny blip of a life, but you are in control of that tiny blip.
Which is even more of the reason why we all need to work hard to move away from this good versus bad.
Yeah, the duality.
Yeah.
I mean,
there are no such thing as bad emotions. They're just fucking emotions.
Right.
They might feel like they suck.
There's no such thing as low vibes. Honestly, there's
just vibrations.
There's just vibrations. And some of them are slower and some of them are faster. And we get very uncomfortable in slower vibrations.
But because as humans, we need to label.
Because we don't know how to deal with it because our society is so obsessed with being happy all the time.
Because all we want to do is intellectualize everything.
Exactly.
And so the need for our mind to understand and wrap its little brain around things.
We add meaning. We add meaning to fucking everything.
And we have to see it kind of in one way or the other. It's hard for us to see it in middle grounds where things could coexist and be, happening simultaneously and all of those things.
So the idea of control applies directly to us needing to add meaning to grief. This happens so that you can learn a lesson, and or this is the gift that came out of that grief, or this is whatever.
This is a barrier that you have to bust through, or a block that you have to overcome.
Oh, I love your words.
Sometimes,
See, this is why I don't do shit alone.
I know. I don't know why you ever tried to.
I tried, guys, ladies, people who are listening. I tried to do my own episode by myself.
I have a question to ask you.
What?
And you can answer it now or come back to it, because I don't know if I'm cutting you into a thought that you were going with.
No.
So when you just talked about your experience, your very personal experience, about having kind of dark night of the soul and praying for the first time and hearing some sort of hearing or feeling or both
connected,
some sort of
something
connection
bigger
with
than
something
me.
bigger.
Yeah.
What about all the people that don't?
Yeah.
What about all the people that hit their knees during a time of crisis and pray like they've never fucking prayed before?
And never got a response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that
I think that's
don't fall into the typicalness of staying on the surface around our industry.
Here's the thing. I'm actually, and I've been talking to you about this since the beginning of our friendship. I have been moving myself from talking about universe or talking about, gone a little less so, but the idea of the universe. Like, this is a sign from the universe, or the universe wants you to do this, or this is, because who the fuck knows anything about the universe? Like, what the fuck do we know about the universe? Here's what I know. I know that I heard something that one night, and I've been craving and aching and doing all of my spiritual practices since then to continue to tap into this space of expansiveness. I can tap it when I chant, when I listen to Krishna Das, and when I chant in my car or in my altar, I connect to that space. And that's it. That's all I know. And in that space, I not forget, the humanness of my experience doesn't seem so overwhelming. And I can navigate it and hold space for my humanness because I can remember my vastness. And that's all I know. I don't know, Lindsay, that the universe is sending me a sign when I see a Porsche Macan drive by every day. And I love a Porsche Macan. And
you in this damn car.
You know damn right that if I could buy a Porsche Macan right now, I fucking would.
And what do I tell you every time you bitch to me about your fucking Porsche Macan? I'm always like, Thais, who the hell do you think you are? Because I say it to myself all the time.
This is like a fucking $100,000 SUV, okay?
I'm like, who do you think you are?
Is it a sign, the fact that I want a white Porsche Macan, and then my next door neighbor bought a white Porsche Macan, and now every time I walk down the street, I fucking see one? Is that a sign that I'm supposed to now go fucking buy it? I don't fucking know.
I don't know. Am I a bad friend for not supporting you more in that and being like, I think you should just take a leap of faith and sign the lease, even though you don't know if you could afford it? So I don't know. Does that make me a bad friend?
Probably.
I'm not sure.
You're not supporting my possibilities. But
I don't know. I'm just trying to keep you grounded.
But that's what I need. I'm more curious about getting grounded in the limitations of the human experience than overextending myself by buying lots of things that I think are going to make me happy and then ultimately never end up making me happy. What am I going to do? Like, have sex in my Macan? Like, what am I going to do? Like,
I don't know.
is my Macan going to suddenly, like, going to give me all of the money that I've always wanted just because I now own this car? I don't know. I don't
know. Maybe if you sell shit out of the trunk of that car, you could, maybe that would be a way it could make you money. I don't know.
So, and
you could be a Lyft driver.
The live as if law of attraction conversation is go test drive the car. Go feel what it feels like to be in that car.
I mean, it's fine and fun.
It's fine and fun, except I've never been a window shopper. Why am I going to stare at things I can't afford? How does that make, like, this was a huge revolution for me, was when I burned my vision board. Because I finally acknowledged who I am. Everyone is different. Everyone is different. Everyone has different human experiences. Personally, for me, every time I go window shopping at things I cannot afford, or I look at like my vision board of all of those things that I want to be doing in my year, and it's now, let's say, December, and those things didn't,
any of them.
I'm not living in Bali, like I'm not teaching yoga at an infinity, you know what I mean? Like I'm not doing all these quote unquote things that are on my vision board. You know how I feel? I feel like I fucking failed my life.
Yeah, and that's not good.
Why would I be doing that to myself?
Okay, here's the importance of everything that you just said, I think, right? You have recognized what works and what doesn't work for you.
Exactly.
That's the important part. And I have a little bit of a different stance on like window shopping and things, not out of manifestation, but for many people who don't know, I went to the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City. I went to fucking fashion school.
Yeah.
So there's something about design and cultivating an idea and making it like into a thing that I like and I appreciate.
Yeah.
Now, not everyone does, and I don't think everyone should. And I don't think it's necessary.
I know plenty of people who may not like manifestation, but have vision boards because it inspires them. And every time they wake up and they think about taking a vacation to Bali, they like work hustler harder or whatever. And that's great. I think what I'm getting at really, Linz, is that I've become, this is it. This is it
Okay.
right now.
All right. Don't hit me.
Okay. I took on a lot of beliefs because they sounded good and they gave me a form of control.
Yes.
So as I was dismantling my binge eating and my traumas from my past, I had to fill that hole with something.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had to like find my place amongst things. And I did through spirituality and through many of the spiritual principles that are now well known, although I really don't see manifestation as part of spiritual principle, but everyone puts it in the same bucket, so it's fine.
Well, the spiritual community maybe has just like taken it and ran with it and marketed it so well that we now think
it's the modern prosperity gospel. Yeah. Anyway, so now I'm at not now, but in the past 2 years, I've stepped into a more foundational place of being able to deal with more and more uncertainty. And in that space, I've been able to let go of some of the belief systems that I actually have not seen to work for me in my life.
And I think that is beautiful.
I've unlearned and dismantled the beliefs that I eschewed, that I at one point like believed in, that I pushed. And now I'm like, you know what? I actually haven't seen that to be really true for me. And so I'm not going to teach what I have not seen to be really true for me.
Yeah.
And now I only teach, I'm committed to supporting people in understanding their truths, right? Learn how to know, trust, and express themselves unapologetically, know themselves, know their belief systems and what the belief systems that they've been given by the industry or by, their parents, by society, and really figuring out what is theirs. If you have never talked to God, you are not broken. If you have had dark night of the soul experiences and you never heard a thing, that is okay too. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that you're not loved.
It's just your experience.
It's just your experience.
And you might...
And you get to own that.
Connect differently.
Don't you let anybody take away your experience, your stories, who you are, your belonging. And that's why when we talk about manifestation and law of attraction and, these spiritual principles, I think by the way that we talk about it and teach it and commune with each other on these principles, it almost takes away people's individual experiences and it shames them into it not being the same, the experience that they should be having.
Yeah. And you know what I think happens? I think a lot of people, and I'm not going to say all, because that's probably not the case, but a lot of these like spiritual teachers and like personal help like personal growth gurus, I think many of them start out with great real intentions of making deep impact.
Yeah.
And I think they start to explode. And then what happens is when you get to a certain level of success, you have to become, or you have to let go of all the depth and you have to be more surface, because in marketing, you have to sell to the masses.
Yeah.
And so therefore you have to sell the surface level manifestation.
Yeah.
Because
that's the gateway drug.
Yeah. Mass marketing won't pick up the shadow work that needs to be done.
Yeah.
In that manifestation work.
And I think that's why I'm not really interested in the mass. I used to want to reach the masses. And I think now I'm just really committed to having very real, engaged dialogue with humans. The more I'm doing this work of being able to hold space for my own humanity, the more I'm interested in really just relating with other humans.
I agree.
And being in relation and practicing what it looks like to be in consensual conversations and to really be able to hold people's pains and depths and challenges without presupposing and telling them that they have to think a certain way or do a certain way. And for example, I have had clients who come to me and they're like, I'm coming to you because I want you to help me fix all these problems. And the first thing I do in the work is help them uncover that they're actually not a problem. And I think that that's so important for all of us to understand that we're not a problem. And if your life doesn't align with any of these principles, if your life doesn't look like these people's lives, if, you know, you're doing all this work and you're not making $1 bazillion, you're not inherently broken. Mm-hmm. You're not inherently broken. The system, life wants to make you think that you are broken so that you keep buying the products and keep getting the highs and keep going to the events so that, you know, you can be in that high vibe state and it becomes an addiction to the high, but then the lows come and you don't know how to handle the lows because you never taught how to handle the lows. And so then you shame yourself and you tell yourself that you're broken and you need to get another high again. Mm-hmm. It's an addiction. It's a pattern, and we need to stop letting it happen. We need to stop perpetuating it. It needs to stop.
I think it's important to like identify that, you know, as a human being, you yourself can never be broken. But situations that you're in can break.
Yes.
And connections can be broken.
Yes.
And lots of things in our human life can break, but the human itself is inherently always perfect and whole.
Yeah. I think another topic that we should talk about that's just coming up for me is is sharing our stories and how to share our stories so it doesn't perpetuate this experience that if your story isn't similar, then you're kind of not on the right path.
Yeah, because you're
talking to me about
to like, well, what about the people who don't hear that voice?
Yeah.
You know?
And I think Elizabeth Gilbert had the same bathroom experience, right? Where she felt, and that started.
I almost said, "Oh, your Liz Gilbert experience."
Yeah, that seems to be a thing, I guess. Like,
why do I feel the need to do that with my voice when I do things?
I don't know. I don't ask questions anymore.
You just accept me as I am.
I guess it's very common to have a bathroom moment. Mine wasn't in a bathroom, but it was in I don't know.
I just don't want to. I feel like we've all had those experiences of like crying in a bathroom many times somewhere, though.
Yeah.
I cry often in the shower.
I think, yes, I do too. Or pooping, you know?
Okay, I don't cry and poop. My pooping is very sacred. I like to go to it with a lot of reverence.
Okay, we're almost out of time here. Do we have any other final thoughts?
I would like to pay you a compliment, if I may.
Oh, sure.
I think you have a lovely ability to always loop things back around to what we were actually talking about. And I really admire that because I go off on so many tangents.
I think tangents are fun because they're organic. I just think we do have to come back.
No, and it's so good.
Like, I'm glad.
I hope that I can learn that from you.
Okay, listeners, if you're enjoying my looping around, fucking please rate, review, share,
subscribe,
download.
All the things.
To
all these people who are listening.
All the people
that Thais tells me, but I still
We're just staring at a mic.
Yeah.
And numbers on a computer screen. It tells us that there are a certain number of people that are listening, but we don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway, look, we're not shaming manifestation and we're not shaming law of attraction. If it's working for you and it feels good for you, that is great. I know so many law of attraction manifestation coaches who are actually also talking about the shadow side, who are bringing a comprehensive view on this experience.
Beautiful work.
I again, it's not black and white. It's just we have to be able to really look at these principles and really ask ourselves the deeper questions. If we are to, if something is not up for scrutiny, you need to be afraid. If there's a person who is terrified of scrutiny, then they're Trump. You know what I mean? Like, look at how Trump responds to criticism and critique and people observing his behavior, right? We don't want to be like that. We want to be open to feedback. We want to be open to receiving analysis on our work because it can deepen our work. Mm-hmm. It can help us see the holes in our work. And if we're just students of this work, it can help us bring in different tools to expand our toolkit. Our goal, my goal always in my life and in the lives of those around me is to expand. Mm-hmm. And not expand and grow as in like make more money. Expand and grow as in like be in a state of not narrowing your existence, but opening up to the experiences. And anytime we crunch in, is an invitation for you to see that you're crunching in.
Unless you're crunching in to recharge.
No, but even that's okay.
Yeah.
Crunching in is not the problem.
Yeah.
We just have to notice why we're crunching in, what we're doing, what's happening.
I was just making sure.
Unless you're doing sit-ups and push-ups, then you're allowed to crunch all you want.
Yeah, that, if that's the goal.
Yeah.
Moral of the story is stay curious.
Yes.
Stay curious.
Stay curious. Stay open. Mm-hmm. And it's scary to unearth your beliefs, but I promise you that tremendous freedom can happen when you don't just accept things as they are, but really question everything.
Yeah, don't accept things just because somebody says that's how they are.
Or because it worked for them.
Yeah.
That's something else that I think, and we didn't even talk about the privilege in law of attraction manifestation. We didn't even go into that.
We just touched the surface of it.
But here's one thing. Just because it worked for somebody else does not mean it's going to work for you. I learned this in the diet nutrition industry, right? Because the science of diet nutrition is different than most sciences because our bodies are so different.
There's
no one diet that works for everybody. And so what I learned at that point in my life was just because this diet, this thing, this regimen, this behavior, this whatever is working for them doesn't mean it's going to work for me. And we've got to apply that to every principle. Just because they're living a rich and glorious lifestyle does not mean that that is your life if you do everything that person says. You've got your own gorgeous, messy experiences, and they're yours. They're special because they're yours. So don't negate them just because they don't look like everybody else's.
Yeah, and like I always say, just because it's Prada doesn't mean it's pretty.
Is that really what you say, Lindsay?
I mean, I say it sometimes.
I'm gonna go buy my Porsche Macan now.
Just like it's like if it's in Whole Foods doesn't mean it's healthy.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go buy my Porsche Macan. So peace out, y'all. Lindsay and I had a lot of thoughts around manifestation, and now we want to hear yours. Come hang out with us on Instagram and Facebook. You can find Lindsay at With Lindsey Rae and me at I Am Thais Sky. And if you want to check out more of Lindsay's work, go to www.withlindseyrae.com. And as always, you can learn more about me and my work at www.thaissky.com. See you next week.